Well, and deception's been a long part of their strategy against us and against other nations. I think the Belt and Road, in a sense, is a bait and switch. Oh yeah, we'll invest all of this into your economy, and yet the nation that participates may find that they lose the port that was financed, they lose the airport, or they find a lot of technology that's in place to spy on their people.
Yeah, this is the key feature of Chinese communist expansionism in the 21st century. It really kind of launched under Xi Jinping, who came to power in 2012, 2013 time period. Up until that time, the Chinese strategy toward the world was outlined by Deng Xiaoping, who was the post-Mao reformer, who got the ball rolling on their big modernization. And under Deng, the strategy was bide our time, build our capabilities. Xi Jinping has come online now and said, we're not biding our time and we're no longer building, we're going to continue building, but we've reached the point where now we can take action. And he set forth something called the China Dream, which is really a communist nightmare of how China will emerge as the world's leading superpower. The Belt and Road Initiative is this infrastructure project in the developing world. They hope to really end run the United States by encircling the United States through the developing world with Chinese hegemony. In other words, they want to dominate the periphery of the United States, and ultimately they want to dominate the United States.
Well, and that's the purpose, is they want to be the most powerful nation. They think it's their rightful place, and they think historically that's where they have been. It may not always be true, but that is the Chinese belief, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I also, in Deceiving the Sky, I spend a lot of time focusing on Chinese communist ideology. And the reason for that is I did a debate in New York City probably 10 or 15 years ago on China, the threat from China. And one of the debaters on the pro-China side came up to me after it. He said, I've been doing business in China for 20 years and I've never met a communist. And I was totally shocked. I told him, I said, really, all you need to do is, when next time you're in Beijing, go to the People's Liberation Army Museum. Inside of that museum today, they have statues of Mao, Stalin, Lenin, Marx, Engels, all the great communist leaders. So this deception of China is that it's no longer communist has had wide-reaching impact in the United States and around the world.
Well, and that one of the things that you point out in chapter 1, you say how communists lie. And so it really is that they have to pretend that they're not communists in order to take position, right?
Yeah. But the good news is the Trump administration has made a major fundamental shift in U.S. policy towards China. And that's really the most positive development in my 35 years of covering this issue, is really looking at how we're no longer doing this unfettered engagement. So I'm fairly optimistic that the way things are going, that President Trump has focused on economic issues, but the impact has reverberated throughout the intelligence community, the law enforcement community, and the military and Pentagon as well. So it's very positive. I hope that the president stays the course and will continue with this tough policy, because no nation can survive when it loses up to $600 billion a year in its most important precious commodities, which are our intellectual properties. Our country, our economy is based on intellectual property and technology and innovation, and if we don't do enough to stop this, the country will not survive.
Well, I think you're right. I think there is good news. I mean, you and I worked with people in the Pentagon, you even mentioned in your book, 10 years ago, and nobody was having any idea that there was economic warfare with China. Why would China do anything to harm us? But what they don't know is something you put in your book, which I thought was very interesting. President Xi most admires, you listed 3 people, and the middle one, number 2, was the one that struck me. Can you share about who President Xi most admires?
Yeah, he's an admirer of Mao Zedong, the communist founder, who's widely regarded as the world's most notorious mass murderer. He's been blamed for upwards of 60 million deaths of Chinese. He's also an admirer of Adolf Hitler because he believes Hitler almost took over the entire world. And he's also an admirer of Joseph Stalin because Stalin was able to take over the Russian military, obviously with disastrous consequences when it came to World War II.